the recording is started. Hi, my name is Daša. I'm from Lesbian and Gay Solidarity Network. This is an interview with Résistance Lesbienne from France. I'm here with Joan and Jodie. And without further ado, because I don't want to make introductions, I want to actually hear from them. First, I'd like to ask you something. Can you introduce the group? Can you tell me who you are, what you're doing, when did you start, and basically who you are?
Well, we are a group of lesbian and also radical feminists, and we started to exist with the action that we did in the Paris Pride on the 26th of June. And basically we wanted to bring lesbian voices against the queer politics and against the queer ideology, because we think that this is something that is forced on the young lesbians and on young women especially, and we are against this movement that we consider as dangerous in some ways.
Right, thank you. And are there any specific principles that you organized on? You're a group of lesbians, and what are your political aims?
We are abolitionists of any form of prostitution. We are against the BDSM. We are also gender abolitionist, which means that we consider that oppression is based on sex, and what makes a woman is just biology, and we are rejecting all the stereotypes against around the femininity, and we think that femininity is a tool of oppression that is used to oppress women. And yes.
Right. Thank you. So can you tell me more about the action on Paris Pride? What happened, and first, what motivated you to go to Paris Pride in this manner, and what happened there? Can you tell me more about it?
We wanted to do something in Paris because the queer movement is taking more and more place in France, and in England there was already some radical feminist voice with some actions of Get the Hell Out in London at the London Pride, but there was nothing in France. The only voices of lesbians were queer lesbians, so we were kind of frustrated, and the only public groups that existed before were abolitionist groups, but they were more based on the prostitution topic and not on the detransition and the reject of femininity and the existence of lesbians who are not queer and everything. I don't know if Jodie want to add something about that.
No, I just wanted to say, yes, I mean, there were, since 3 years ago, it started with London Pride, and then these similar actions have been done in different places in UK also. And similar action was done in Vienna 2 years ago in Euro Pride. And as for France, what is interesting from me also as someone who is not French and not always in France, is that even if, as John said, there haven't been there hasn't been a strong lesbian group that came out in this way. There have been abolitionist groups that were doing actions against prostitution and pornography, and always and necessarily viciously attacked by trans and queer activists. It was it's happening. Whatever action that we take. Several months ago, before the 8th of March, they were a group of women was attacked by. So it's really, this is kind of a queer and trans activists, they attack everywhere, but it seems somehow that in certain places they like Serbia or former Yugoslavia, they do it verbally, they do it on internet, they do it here, they do it on street, and they do it physically continually, like, and more and more and more and more. And even whether they have big support and don't have big support is questionable, but there are even those who are maybe critical don't feel comfortable to come out
Mm-hmm.
to say, to criticize.
For the sake of clarification for people listening, what happened on the day before 8th of March, if I'm correct, a group of abolitionists, feminists gathered somewhere in France to protest
in Paris.
In Paris to protest well to protest against legalization of prostitution, or what exactly was the?
They were protesting against prostitution because here it's adopted the Nordic model. Mm-hmm. Officially. Of course, the implementation of it's not as in Sweden or I don't know other places, like it's very slow. But so it's not the question of legalization, but they were just using the International Day of Women to express their opposition to prostitution and pornography, and they were attacked by quite hard by queer and trans activists.
As I remember, there was also physical clashes and physical violence, and there were graffiti mentioning bullets for TERFs. If I remember
exactly.
correctly.
There was a graffiti, one bullet, one TERF.
Yeah. And did something similar happen now during Pride? And we have someone else coming.
Yes and no, there were no tags, but there were tweets saying kill a TERF, save a trans, and there were we also received some death threats, but it was in the private sphere, not in the public space. Even if one trans who was at the Pride with the person who attacked us posted a message on Instagram saying that at the end of the Pride, they were waiting for us and waiting to beat us. But we were already gone because we had felt that we were in danger and we should go right now. So.
Oh, and how many of you were there? I saw some videos. It looked a bit frightening.
I think we were 12.
Something like that. 12, 13, yeah.
Are you? Yes. Speaking of that, are you? I mean, it seems to me, while following the situation with LGBT organizing and lesbian organizing and fighting the queer politics, it seems to me that besides, well, UK, France really now has a strong, at least it seems so, has a strong feminist, abolitionist, and now lesbian scene. Are you in contact with other organizations, radical feminists, or is there anyone on the left supporting you? And is there any other organization that is not maybe strictly radical feminist that can be your ally?
I think there was only one LGBT organization who brought us support, and who were saying that they were not agreeing with our opinions, but they were also supporting us because we were aggressed at the Pride. But that's all, and it was really a little LGBT organization. But all the famous French feminist and LGBT organization, they did nothing, or they were against us. and the support we received was from radical feminist groups. So it was not surprising to have support from them, but we were waiting for maybe more support from a feminist organization. We were not asking for a support of our opinions, but something concerning the aggression and the fact that lesbians were harassed after the Pride just because we were here.
It does seem bleak.
It was really also for me this thing was really interesting because the queer and trans, they use the picture. We were 12 or 13 out of 12 or 13 women. We were 3 who were mixed race, me and 2 more. And they nevertheless they said that we are presented as aggressive, as white as a chalk, whereas the male who attacked us was presented as a poor migrant victim because he is Russian or whatever, Ukrainian, Russian, both of them are. And so it's the LGBT organizations in France, like everywhere else, simply won't stand by women, even if it's evident that women are attacked. We were not doing anything. It was a brilliant action. We were 12, 13 strong women shouting really powerful slogans. It was really interesting that there were some women in their 19, 20 who approached. They were carrying LGBT bags, rainbow flags, I don't know what, but they approached us from the back and they chanted with us. But nothing was done. Mm-hmm. All around there were trans, queer supporters, probably also from the left, who were booing, wooing, saying making all kinds of threats until we stopped. The cabs were in front of us. These men appeared, and perfectly ideal group of women was turned by LGBT and all the other alphabet soup groups into perpetrators, where the 2 poor Russian migrants male were turned into victims.
Yeah, it does usually go like that. Women.
But what was also interesting is that we managed to not fall into their trap. We managed to protect ourselves, and we managed that nobody gets, that there is no physical contact, and that nobody got hurt.
Yeah, I mean,
none of us, I mean.
I think that was it the same day or maybe a day before or later, a similar thing happened in, I think, Barcelona. And I think a woman was actually physically hurt and ended in hospital with some minor. So I mean, congratulations for the action, and I'm really glad you stayed safe. But what it seems right now is that anyone who is violent can easily be made a victim if they identify as queer. I no longer know what that means. So, well, my question now is how strong is that ideology in France? How many organizations are pushing it? How is the state pushing it? What are the laws concerning gender identity in France like?
In France, there are some laws concerning the inclusion of trans women in women's sport that are passing, but it's very weird because it's silenced. Like nobody talk about it, and if you're not already interested in the subject, you will never know that those laws are passing. Mm-hmm. And more, it's really weird because the laws are written in a really ambiguous way. Like if you don't know that they are talking about trans women, you will not understand the law that is passing. So yeah, that's really frustrating because you have to bring the subject, then you have to explain why you are against it, etc. But I think it's in France we are still at the beginning of the movement comparing to the UK, because we don't have the suggestion of the auto-identification laws and everything, but maybe it will come after the sports laws. I don't know. But what I can say is that for the left-wing teenagers, the queer culture is like everywhere for them, and it's an evidence when you're an LGBT teenager or just a left-wing teenager that you will be queer, and this is not even questionable.
Well, I mean, what's necessary according to French law to have a different sex registered in your documents to like legally change sex? Is it? I mean, is it? I think it's still not self-ID based on just the saying, but you need to actually have some sort of procedure, right?
I'm not sure, but yes, I think you need to transition still now to change legally.
But basically, you can do that. You can, I mean,
Yes,
be considered a woman in front of French law if you are on I mean, transitioning.
yes.
From what I know very little about it also, but from what I know from some personal, I mean, I heard some experiences. It seems that it's kind of not simple to do anything still, but when a teenager goes to a teenager who, because like again, like in many other places, all teenage girls now are brainwashed. If they feel a little bit different, if they say, I don't want to wear long hair, or I don't want to, I don't know, I want to wear a hoodie or whatever, they say, you must be a boy. So then they're sent, or they diagnose her with autism plus gender dysphoria. So then she goes to a psychologist to talk about her autism and her gender dysphoria. And what I got in the impression is that the psychologists are actually really pushing for the transitioning of young girls. So of course, until they're 18, they can't still do any major changes, except maybe, but this I'm not completely, maybe 17 is already some lower limit for mastectomy or something like that, and the hormones or something like that. So they're really, really pushing, even if it's legally not regulated. There is no self-identification law like in UK, and there is no such kind of pushing. There is medical kind of pushing.
Yeah, and it's not for girl. I mean, it's usually young lesbians and young homosexuals that are being pushed towards transition. Is it? I mean, is it common? Is it? Is it becoming more of a threat than it's weird. For example, right now, because I'm still thinking in the framework of Serbia, where old school homophobia is still very, very present and the main threat still. But in Western countries, such as obviously UK and France, you have queer theory as a new age homophobia. And since, for example, some fights were already won in for example, France, where you can have a civil partnership and you can marry and you can live decently and fairly safe as a homosexual. But now you have queer theory and the whole transing of young homosexuals. Did it reach the point where it's a bigger issue than what's left of old school homophobia, or do you still have a mixture of those two?
Well, I don't know how to compare those two forms of homophobia, but what I can say is that I had some of my ex-girlfriends who were not feminine, and I remember being with their family and hearing their mother or their father saying like, oh, you know, you're almost a boy, you should transition, and they were saying that as a joke. But in fact, my one of my ex-girlfriend, her father was making lots of joke about it, and one day she started to transition, in fact, and I felt the same with my mother recently, because I used to be like very feminine, wearing makeup every day, dresses and everything. Like I'm still more feminine today than anything else, but I don't wear makeup, I don't wear dresses, and my mother told me, oh, why you're always in jeans now and wearing no makeup? And she told me, at this point you should maybe transition. And it was really like ironical, because I was thinking, well, you're just proving everything that I'm fighting. So
But you know, I think these, like, I think again in France or everywhere, when patriarchy exists everywhere, male domination is the same everywhere. Like the thing that we see, okay, there is some environments are more progressive, some are less. It's an illusion of everything is the same, and these two things are the part of the two sides of the same coin. And this homophobia, anti-lesbianism would be more the word that I would choose.
Lesbophobia. Lesbophobia, you mean?
Yeah, lesbophobia or anti-lesbianism. I choose it more because it targets the specific hate. It's me personally, I don't like so much these words that contain phobia, because it's, but yeah, we can call it lesbophobia. It's what I wanted to say. It's well, my thought lost escaped.
You are right. It's two sides of the same coin.
The same of the. It's really yeah. This is just like progressive lesbophobia. You know, they rape you progressively. They make conversion therapy progressively. It's all in the name of progress, because it's progressive to be trans.
Yeah, and it's socially acceptable to bully lesbians into sleeping with men and or pretend that they are men. So basically, if you're a masculine presenting, if you're a gender non-conforming lesbian, you are supposed to be a man. And if you are not, if you're a feminine woman, then you are a porn category in the fetish. So that's basically what two options that young lesbians have. And it's obvious why a lot of them are trying to find safety in malehood, which is something that they never really get, but it's logical even why people would want that.
If you ask now young teenagers, 13, 14, some who I don't know are a bit different, even in Serbia, they will be critical of traditional homophobia, but they won't be critical of this kind of lesbian erasure, because for them it's perfectly normal. You cannot be a woman with piercing, for example. Like, this is not possible. You're not a woman. You're not a lesbian. Is not a woman. So if you want to have piercing and wear jeans, you have to become a man for them, and this is super great.
Yeah. But what we've seen in some other Western countries, I'm not sure whether France is there yet, but what happens is that first they come for lesbians, and then the lesbians organize, and then they come for gay men because it's only logical. Where are gay men, and where is the rest of community, or is it right now just lesbians fighting this in France?
We received some support, not so much, but we did receive some support from men. But we don't know, because we wanted to talk for lesbians, because gay men are still oppressors and they don't live misogyny, and we feel that the pressure of the cotton stealing and all this trans activism culture is more pushed on lesbians than on gay men. And like we had a woman who support us, who did some tweets to test the reaction, and she tweeted something saying like, you're transphobic if you're a man who no, she was tweeting like, it's not transphobic for a man to don't suck penises, and she got no reactions, and she did the same instead for lesbians, and everyone was like, yeah, it's transphobic, it's horrible. So it was proving this.
Yeah. It's quite bizarre. I mean, I honestly hope that what's happening, I think UK is, I mean, they were the first one to actually notice the problem, and they are making some progress on it. But what I think that should happen and will at some point happen is that other organizations that are not necessarily specifically lesbian and feminist will start reacting to this problem, and that maybe even left wing will remember their stance on materialism in this sense, and maybe even unions will remember to defend women who are sacked from jobs. But until then, I understand that it does seem a bit bleak. Again, still, while you were talking about the situation in France, I'm trying to translate it to Serbian context, and see what's different and what's similar. What the potential problem right now here is that they are trying to push this idea of gender identity and gender in a different definition than what we have as a hierarchy of sexes and the imposed male dominance over women. But they're right now switching definitions of gender in Serbian law, and it's completely under the radar, and it's going to happen the same way it happened in France, that we will not even figure out what happened, because at first it's really not a big deal. It just says gender somewhere, and you don't see how it completely entered the laws. I'm not sure how it happens at first in France, but I think it will be kind of similar here as well. Let me see if I wanted to ask you something else while we were here. What do you have some plans for future? What do you plan to do as a group?
Well, to continue some lesbian actions, and right now we are resting from our action, but we will think about it and plan some things for young lesbians and prevention from transing lesbians and everything.
Maybe it's because I don't understand French, so I can't really read your social networks. But what I really like is that you're actually in real life, as in on the streets, not only online activism, which is something that can happen. So like I wanted to congratulate you on starting the group and on what happened on Pride. If there is any way we can help or continue to support you, let us know. And if there is anything you would like to add, feel free.
Well, thank you. I don't know, Jodie, you want to add something?
No,
No?
no.
Are you speaking on Women's Human Rights Campaign tomorrow? Did I read that correctly? Okay, so let's announce that as well. So tomorrow around 4, I think.
Yeah, it's 4 our time. Yeah, it's 4 our time.
Nice. I'll be listening. Thank you both so much. I will stop recording right now.